Jake Carter stood in front of the old garage, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. The morning sun on New Haven was already hot, and it was only 8 in the morning. He looked at the building one more time before making his final decision. 20 years in the Marines had taught him to trust his gut, and something about this place felt different. Not bad different, just strange. The old man who owned it, Pete Williams, had been eager to sell. Too eager, maybe. But Jake needed a fresh start, and this garage would give him that. "You sure about this, Pete?" Jake asked the elderly man standing beside him. Pete was thin and weathered, with gray hair and kind eyes that seemed to hold secrets. Pete smiled and handed Jake the keys. "Son, this place has been good to me for 30 years. It will be good to you, too. Just remember what I told you about keeping an open mind." Jake nodded, though he still did not understand what Pete meant by that. The old man had said the same thing 3 times during their meetings. Keep an open mind. What was that supposed to mean for a garage business? After Pete drove away in his old truck, Jake walked around the building slowly. The garage was bigger than most, with space for at least 6 vehicles. The walls were made of some kind of metal composite he had never seen before. It looked like steel, but had a strange shimmer to it, like oil on water. The foundation was concrete, but it had odd patterns worked into it, lines and circles that almost looked like electrical circuits. Jake had worked with electronics in the military, and these patterns reminded him of computer chip designs. But who would put circuit patterns in a garage floor? Inside, the garage was clean and well organized. Pete had left behind some basic tools and equipment, but nothing fancy. There were 4 vehicle lifts, which seemed like a lot for a small colony town. Jake walked to the back of the building and found something that made him stop cold. There was a section of wall that did not match the rest. The metal composite looked the same, but the seams were different. Jake ran his hands along the wall and felt a slight gap. It was a hidden panel. His Marine training kicked in. Hidden panels usually meant hidden rooms, and hidden rooms usually meant trouble. Jake looked around for something to pry the panel open. He found a crowbar in Pete's old toolbox and carefully worked it into the gap. The panel swung open with a soft hiss, revealing a small room behind the wall. Jake stepped inside and felt his jaw drop. The room was full of equipment unlike anything he had ever seen. Strange tools hung on the walls, tools with no obvious purpose. Some looked like they were made for hands much larger than human hands. There was a workbench covered with devices that hummed softly with their own power. Screens showed symbols that were definitely not English or any human language Jake knew. The air in the room smelled clean and metallic, like the inside of a new spacecraft. Jake picked up one of the tools from the workbench. It was surprisingly light for its size, and it felt warm to the touch. When he pressed what looked like a button, the tool made a soft beeping sound and projected a holographic display in the air above it. The display showed what looked like a 3-dimensional map of some kind of machine. "What the hell did you get yourself into, Pete?" Jake whispered to himself. He spent the next hour examining everything in the hidden room. Most of the equipment was a complete mystery, but some things were obvious. There were diagnostic tools for vehicles, but vehicles much larger than any car or truck. The hydraulic systems alone were designed to lift something the size of a small building. That was when Jake noticed the floor, in the center of the hidden room. There was a section of flooring that looked different from the rest. It was the same metal composite as the walls, but it had a slight depression in it, like it was designed to move. Jake found what looked like a control panel next to the strange floor section. The buttons were labeled with the same unknown symbols he had seen on the other equipment. He hesitated for a moment, then pressed the largest button. The floor began to move. With a low humming sound, a section of the floor about 10 feet square began to descend. Jake watched in amazement as it revealed itself to be a massive elevator platform. Below the platform, he could see the beginning of what looked like a much larger facility. The elevator stopped after descending about 20 feet. Jake was now looking at a corridor that stretched away into the distance. The walls glowed with a soft blue-green light that seemed to come from the material itself. The air smelled even cleaner down here, and he could hear the soft hum of machinery somewhere in the distance. Jake climbed onto the elevator platform and pressed another button. The platform began to descend again, taking him deeper into the underground facility. When it finally stopped, Jake found himself in a vast chamber that was clearly not human-made. The ceiling was at least 30 feet high, and the room was big enough to park a dozen large trucks. But this was not a parking garage. Along the walls were what looked like living quarters, but living quarters designed for people much taller than humans. The beds were nearly 8 feet long, and the doorways were tall enough for someone 7 feet tall to walk through comfortably. Jake explored the living quarters slowly, his military training making him careful and alert. Each room was furnished, with furniture that was clearly not human-made. The chairs were too tall, the tables too high, and everything had the same strange, clean design as the equipment upstairs. In one of the rooms, Jake found what looked like a closet full of clothing. The clothes were clearly not human-made either. They were designed for tall, thin beings with long arms and legs. The fabric felt smooth and almost alive to the touch. The most disturbing discovery came when Jake found the facility's life support systems. They were still running. The air was being filtered and recycled. The temperature was being maintained at a comfortable level, and the lights were on. Everything was working as if someone had just stepped out for a moment and would be back soon. Jake spent the rest of the day exploring the underground facility. He found what looked like a medical bay, a communication center, and several rooms, whose purpose he could not guess. Everything was clean, functional, and waiting. By evening, Jake sat in his truck outside the garage, staring at the building that was now his. He had bought what he thought was a simple garage, but he had discovered something that was clearly much more. The question was, what was he going to do about it? Pete's words echoed in his mind. Keep an open mind. Maybe the old man had known exactly what Jake would find. Maybe Pete had been preparing him for this discovery all along. Jake looked at the garage one more time, then drove back to his small apartment in town. Tomorrow he would have to decide what to do with his discovery, but tonight he needed time to think. One thing was certain. His quiet retirement from the Marines was about to become much more complicated. 3 weeks had passed since Jake discovered the underground facility. He had spent most of that time trying to figure out what to do with his discovery. During the day, he worked on fixing cars and trucks for the local colonists. At night, he explored the alien facility, trying to understand its purpose. Jake had decided not to tell anyone about what he found. His military training taught him that some secrets were better kept until you understood them completely. But he was running out of patience. The facility was clearly waiting for someone. But who? His answer came at 4 in the morning on a Tuesday. Jake was sleeping in his apartment when a loud humming sound woke him up. He looked out his window and saw nothing unusual. The sound seemed to be coming from the direction of his garage. He quickly dressed and drove through the empty streets toward his business. When Jake arrived at the garage, he could not believe what he saw. Behind his building, a sleek, silver aircraft sat on the ground. It was about the size of a small airplane, but its design was unlike anything human-made. The surface was smooth and seamless with no visible windows or doors. Soft blue lights pulsed along its sides. Jake parked his truck and approached the aircraft carefully. His hand moved instinctively to where his sidearm would have been during his military days. But he was a civilian now, and his only weapon was a wrench from his toolbox. As Jake got closer to the aircraft, a section of its hull opened without any sound. A ramp extended to the ground, and a figure appeared in the opening. Jake stopped walking and stared. The being standing in the aircraft doorway was clearly not human. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, with long, thin limbs and smooth gray skin that seemed to shimmer in the morning light. Its head was larger than a human head, with big, dark eyes that seemed to hold intelligence and curiosity. The alien being stepped down the ramp and approached Jake slowly. It raised one long-fingered hand in what might have been a greeting. When it spoke, its voice was surprisingly clear and calm. "Hello, human. My name is Zeph. Are you the new keeper of this facility?" Jake blinked in surprise. The alien spoke perfect English, though its voice had an odd musical quality to it. I'm Jake Carter. I own this garage. How do you know English? Zeph pointed to a small device attached to its clothing. Translation unit. Very useful for communication with different species. I must ask, did Pete Williams tell you about us before he left? Pete? He just told me to keep an open mind. He didn't mention anything about aliens visiting my garage. Zeph made a sound that might have been laughter. That sounds like Pete. Always careful with information. May I ask, have you discovered the facility beneath your building? Jake studied the alien carefully. His military training told him to be cautious, but something about Zeph seemed peaceful and friendly. Yes, I found it. I've been trying to figure out what it's for. It is a way station, Zeph explained. A place where peaceful travelers can rest, refuel, and conduct business. Pete Williams maintained it for over 30 years. We hoped he would find someone suitable to continue the work. Jake felt his mind racing. You're saying aliens have been using my garage as some kind of rest stop for 30 years? Not just your garage. The facility extends much deeper than what you have seen. It serves many purposes for many different species. We helped establish several human colonies in this sector, including New Haven. In return, humans like Pete provided us with discreet services. Zeph gestured toward the garage building. May I show you the parts of the facility you have not yet discovered? There is much more than living quarters down there. Jake hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Lead the way. They entered the garage and descended to the underground facility. Zeph moved through the corridors like he knew them well, leading Jake to sections he had not yet explored. The alien showed him rooms full of equipment for repairing and refueling spacecraft, storage areas containing materials Jake did not recognize, and communication centers with screens showing star maps and flight paths. The facility can service most types of spacecraft used by peaceful species in this sector, Zeph explained. It also serves as a neutral meeting place for diplomatic meetings and trade negotiations. Jake looked around at the sophisticated equipment. And Pete ran all this by himself? Pete was more capable than he appeared. He had help from automated systems, and visitors like myself often assisted with maintenance. The facility is designed to be manageable by one person with proper training. They entered a room Jake had not seen before. It was filled with containers of various sizes, all labeled with symbols in different alien languages. What's all this? Payment and trade goods. Many species prefer to conduct business in materials rather than currency. Rare minerals, technological components, medical supplies, information. Pete accumulated quite a collection over the years. Zeph opened one of the containers and showed Jake its contents. Inside were crystals that glowed with their own internal light. These power cells are worth more than your entire colony's annual budget. Pete left them for whoever would take over the facility. Jake stared at the glowing crystals. You're saying Pete left me a fortune in alien technology? Pete believed. The facility should continue operating. He chose you because your military background suggested you could handle the responsibility and the secrecy required. Over the next few hours, Zeph explained how the way station operated. Different alien species would arrive at various times, some for repairs, others for trade, and some just for a safe place to rest during long journeys. The facility provided services to over a dozen different species, all of whom had agreements with the human operators. But here is what you must understand, Zeph said seriously. Not all species in this sector are peaceful. There are those who would use a facility like this for hostile purposes. Discretion is not just a courtesy, it is a matter of survival. Jake nodded. What kind of hostile species? Raiders, slavers, and conquerors. Species that take what they want by force rather than trade. If they discovered this facility, they would either destroy it or try to use it for their own purposes. Either outcome would be very bad for everyone involved. As the sun rose, more spacecraft began arriving. Jake watched in amazement as beings from 3 different species landed behind his garage. They were all different shapes and sizes, but they all seemed to know Zeph and expected to find the facility operational. Your first customers, Zeph said with what might have been a smile. Are you ready to begin your new career? Jake looked at the alien beings approaching his garage. Then at the underground facility full of impossible technology. Then at Zeph, waiting for his answer. His quiet retirement had just become very complicated, but also potentially very profitable. I guess Pete was right about keeping an open mind, Jake said. Let's do this. Zeph made that musical laughing sound again. Excellent. Let me introduce you to your new business partners. Jake had been running the alien way station for 2 months when his biggest problem arrived. Her name was Lisa Brooks, and she worked for the colonial government as a business inspector. She drove up to his garage on a Thursday morning with a clipboard and a very serious expression. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," Lisa said as she stepped out of her official vehicle. "I'm here for your quarterly business inspection." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had been expecting this visit, but not today. 3 alien spacecraft were currently parked in the underground facility, and their crews were resting in the living quarters below. If Lisa discovered them, it would destroy everything. "Of course," Jake said, trying to sound calm. "What do you need to see?" Lisa was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. She looked around the garage with the attention of someone who had done many inspections. "I'll need to check your equipment, your business records, and your power consumption reports." Jake led her through the surface garage, showing her the normal tools and equipment he used for repairing human vehicles. Lisa took notes on her clipboard and asked questions about his business. So far, everything seemed normal, but then Lisa frowned as she looked at a device on her clipboard. "Mr. Carter, your power consumption is very high for a garage this size. You're using almost 10 times more electricity than similar businesses." Jake's military training helped him stay calm, but inside he was panicking. The underground facility used a lot of power to maintain life support and operate the alien equipment. "I run a lot of equipment," he said. "Some of it is energy intensive." Lisa looked around the garage again. "What equipment? I don't see anything that would use this much power." Before Jake could answer, his earpiece crackled with Zeph's voice. The alien was speaking from the hidden facility below. "Jake, we are detecting scanning equipment. This human is using devices to search for energy signatures." Jake touched his ear briefly to acknowledge the message, but Lisa noticed the gesture. "Is everything all right, Mr. Carter?" "Just an earache," Jake lied. "Old injury from my military days." Lisa continued her inspection, but Jake could tell she was becoming suspicious. She used a small device to scan the walls and floor, and her frown grew deeper as she worked. The device was clearly detecting something unusual. "Mr. Carter," Lisa said slowly, "this scanner is picking up electromagnetic signatures that don't match your visible equipment. Are you sure you're showing me everything?" Jake knew he was in trouble. Lisa was not just a regular inspector. She was too well equipped and too thorough for a routine business check. Someone had sent her here specifically to look for unusual activity. "I'm not sure what your scanner is detecting," Jake said. "Maybe interference from the colony's power grid?" Lisa shook her head. "This is a military-grade scanner, Mr. Carter. It's designed to detect exactly the type of signatures I'm seeing. Signatures that suggest advanced technology operating beneath this building." Jake's earpiece crackled again. This time it was a different voice, one of the other aliens currently in the facility. "Human Jake, we can solve this problem for you. One shot from our weapons and this inspector will not be able to report anything." Jake's blood ran cold. The aliens were offering to kill Lisa to protect their secret. "No," he whispered, hoping they could hear him. But Lisa heard him too. "No, what?" "Mr. Carter, who are you talking to?" Jake realized he was out of options. Lisa clearly suspected something, and she was not going to leave without answers. He could let the aliens handle her, but that would mean killing an innocent human being. Or he could trust her with the truth and hope she would not destroy everything. "Lisa," Jake said slowly, "I need to ask you something important. If you discovered something that could change humanity's future, but it had to be kept secret to protect people, what would you do?" Lisa stared at him for a long moment. "That depends on what it is, Mr. Carter. Are you in some kind of trouble?" Jake made his decision. "Follow me. But before I show you anything, I need you to understand that what you're about to see is bigger than both of us. And if you betray this secret, a lot of people could die. Lisa's expression changed from suspicion to curiosity. Show me. Jake led her to the hidden panel in the wall. When he opened it, Lisa gasped at the sight of the alien equipment, but her surprise turned to amazement when Jake activated the elevator that led to the underground facility. My God, Lisa whispered as they descended. How long has this been here? Over 30 years, Jake said, and I've been running it for 2 months. When they reached the main chamber, Lisa saw the alien spacecraft and their crews. 3 different species were currently using the facility, and they all stopped what they were doing to stare at the human woman who had discovered their secret. Zeph approached them, and Lisa took a step back when she saw the tall alien. But her fear quickly turned to fascination as Zeph spoke to her in perfect English. Welcome to our way station, Inspector Brooks. Jake has made a very brave choice in trusting you with our secret. You're real, Lisa said, staring at Zeph. Aliens are real, and you've been here for 30 years. We are real, and we have been helping human colonies establish themselves in this sector. This facility is one of several that serve as meeting points between our species. Lisa looked around at the other aliens and their spacecraft. Why keep it secret? Why not make official contact with our government? Zeph and Jake exchanged glances. Because not all humans can be trusted with this information, Zeph said, and because there are hostile species in this sector who would use such knowledge against both humans and peaceful aliens. Over the next hour, Jake and Zeph explained the situation to Lisa. They told her about the network of way stations, the trade relationships between species, and the threats posed by hostile aliens. Lisa listened to everything with growing amazement. This is incredible, Lisa said finally. But why are you telling me this? I could report everything to the colonial government. Because, Jake said, you're not just an inspector. You've been looking for us, haven't you? Someone suspected alien activity in this sector, and they sent you to investigate. Lisa nodded slowly. The government has been receiving reports of unusual activity for months, strange lights in the sky, unexplained energy readings, reports of unusual aircraft. They sent me to investigate because they thought someone might be hiding advanced technology. And now you've found it, Zeph said. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Lisa looked around the facility one more time, then back at Jake and Zeph. I've been hoping for something like this my entire career. The chance to make contact with alien species, to be part of something bigger than our small colony. She paused, for a moment, then smiled. I think I need to learn more about this operation, and I think you could use someone with connections in the colonial government. Jake felt relief wash over him. You mean you'll help us? I mean, I want to be part of this, Lisa said. Humanity's future might depend on relationships like this. Count me in. Jake thought he understood the situation until Zeph called an emergency meeting 6 weeks after Lisa joined their operation. The alien's usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by something that looked like fear. Jake and Lisa gathered in the main chamber of the underground facility as Zeph activated a large holographic display. My friends, Zeph began, I must tell you something that will change everything you think you know about this operation. The holographic display showed a map of the local star systems. Dozens of points of light marked various locations with different colors indicating different types of installations. Jake could see that his garage was just one small part of a much larger network. This facility is not just a way station, Zeph continued. It is part of an intelligence network that spans 50 star systems. We have been watching and preparing for a threat that grows stronger every day. Lisa leaned forward. What kind of threat? Zeph touched a control, and the display changed to show a different region of space. This area was marked in red, with arrows indicating movement toward the peaceful systems. An aggressive species called the Dominion. They do not trade or negotiate. They conquer and enslave entire worlds. Jake felt his military instincts activate. How big is this Dominion? Large enough to destroy everything we have built here. They have been expanding their territory for decades, and they are now moving toward this sector. Our intelligence network has been tracking their movements and preparing defenses. The holographic display showed battle footage that made Jake's stomach turn. Dominion warships attacking peaceful colonies, destroying cities, and taking prisoners. The attackers looked like insects, but they moved with military precision and used advanced weapons. "They have already destroyed 6 way stations like this one," Zeph said. "The human operators were killed and the facilities were stripped of technology. Your location is likely their next target." Lisa looked pale. "How long do we have?" "Weeks, maybe less. But that is not the worst news." Zeph changed the display again. "The Dominion has learned about Earth's location. They are planning to attack human space next." Jake stood up quickly. "We have to warn Earth. The colonial government, the military, everyone needs to know about this." Zeph shook his head. "Your government would not believe the warning, and they do not have the technology to fight the Dominion. That is why we need you to make a choice." "What choice?" Jake asked. "You can leave this facility with enough payment to live comfortably anywhere in human space, or you can stay and help us coordinate the defense of this entire sector. The second option will make you a key figure in an interstellar war." Lisa looked at Jake. "What does coordinating the defense mean?" Zeph activated another display. "It means using this facility as a command center for the intelligence network. It means training other humans to operate similar facilities. It means becoming humanity's first official contact with alien species." Jake studied the displays showing the scope of the coming conflict. His marine training told him this was bigger than anything he had ever faced. But it also told him that running away was not an option. "What kind of defenses are we talking about?" Jake asked. "Combined fleets from 12 different species. Weapons technology that we will share with human colonies. Most importantly, early warning systems that will give everyone time to prepare." Before Jake could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Red lights flashed and automated systems activated. Zeph ran to a control panel and checked the readings. "Dominion scout ship," Zeph said urgently. "They have found us." Jake felt his combat training take over. "How long until they attack?" "Minutes. The scout is scanning our defenses and calling for backup. We must defend this facility or lose everything." Lisa looked terrified. "What can we do against alien warships?" Zeph led them to a section of the facility Jake had never seen before. It was filled with weapons and defensive equipment that looked far more advanced than anything in human military arsenals. "This facility has defenses, but they require human operators. The systems are designed to work with human reflexes and decision-making abilities." Jake picked up what looked like a targeting helmet. "You're saying humans are better at combat than other species?" "In many ways, yes. Your species has an unusual combination of aggression, adaptability, and quick thinking under pressure. That is why we needed human partners for this network." The sound of approaching spacecraft grew louder. Through the facility's sensors, Jake could see a sleek black ship descending toward the garage. It was smaller than the peaceful alien vessels he was used to, but it radiated menace. "Jake," Zeph said, "if you are going to help us, it must be now." Jake put on the targeting helmet and felt it connect to his thoughts. Suddenly, he could see through the facility's weapon systems and defensive sensors. The Dominion scout ship was preparing to land and deploy troops. "Lisa, get to the communications center and warn the other way stations," Jake ordered. "Tell them we're under attack." Jake activated the facility's defensive systems. Hidden weapons emerged from the ground around the garage, targeting the Dominion ship. The first shots hit the scout vessel before it could land, damaging its engines and forcing it to crash behind the building. But the ship's crew survived the crash. Jake watched through the sensors as 6 insect-like creatures emerged from the wreckage. They were armed with energy weapons and moving toward the garage entrance. "They're trying to get inside," Jake reported. "Zeph, how do I stop them?" "The facility has automated defenses for ground assault, but you must direct them." Jake found himself controlling defensive systems he had never seen before. Energy barriers activated around the garage, and automated weapons tracked the approaching Dominion soldiers. The battle was unlike anything from his military experience, but his training helped him adapt quickly. The Dominion soldiers were tough and well-armed, but they had not expected such heavy resistance from what they thought was a simple way station. Jake's defensive systems eliminated 4 of them before the other 2 retreated to their damaged ship. "They're calling for backup," Zeph warned. "More ships will come." Jake kept the weapons trained on the crashed scout ship until it exploded, taking the remaining Dominion soldiers with it. The immediate threat was over, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. "Well," Jake said, removing the targeting helmet, "I guess that answers your question about whether I'm staying." Lisa returned from the communications center. "I've warned the other facilities. Several are reporting similar attacks." Zeph looked at both humans with something that might have been respect. "You fought well for your first battle against the Dominion, but this was only a scout force. The real war is just beginning." Jake looked around the facility that had become his responsibility. "Then we better get ready. How many other humans? Do we need to train?" "Many," Zeph replied, "and we will need to move quickly. The fate of both human and alien civilizations may depend on what we do in the coming months." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of leadership settling on his shoulders. He had come to New Haven looking for a quiet retirement, but instead he had found his most important mission yet. The garage that had started as a simple business had become the command center for humanity's defense against an alien invasion. The war was coming, but Jake was ready.